A quick summary. 5 verses of chapter 6, canto 7. Prahlad is um, describing, let's say, the futility of this precious human form of life directed towards material goals, material objectives. For a small boy, for his classmates, it's playing, and then at other stages, it's other things and other things, and he's going to touch on those other things. The abject futility of that kind of a life. And he's going to point them in the right direction, besides what not to do. Regardless of the species of life the soul receives, happiness and distress are automatically obtained without endeavor, according to one's past fruit of activity. One cannot avoid happiness and distress under any circumstances. As the way it is described in the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada's commentary, we're the architect of our good fortune or ill fortune. Sad asad yoni janmasu from the Bhagavad Gita. Sad asad, good fortune, ill fortune. It's the consequence of our past deeds. So we're the architect of our good fortune, ill fortune. We may want to take credit for the good fortune. We may not want to take credit for the misfortune or unfortunate circumstances. Now, the platform of bhakti doesn't follow that rule. The platform of bhakti has a different rule. The platform of bhakti, you know, but you're repeating things that you already know. Platform of bhakti is so powerful. Bhakti is so powerful that it has the power of dissolving completely all of the reactions of one's past deed. This is going to be a topic for tomorrow, for the Krishna topic. Because within, at least for those who are adherents to the teachings of Christ, tomorrow represents a big day. It's the day that they, by placing their faith in Christ, he suffers and he takes away their sins. By their faith in him, he suffers their karma. Bhakti says something different. Bhakti says about the actions of sin, aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami masuchaha. The papa, or sin, is dissolved by taking shelter of Krishna. And it's not that Krishna suffers because to take away the reactions of our sins. It's one thing to take away the reactions of the sins. It's another thing to take away the tendency to sin again. Clear? Prarabdha karma. There's, according to the teachings of karma, because that's what this topic is. According to the teachings of karma, there are things that are happening karmically, that are happening in someone's life at the moment. And moment to moment, it's the fructification of karma, good and bad and mixed. And so that's a stage of karma, what's happening at the moment. And then there's 3 other stages. One of them is that the stage is just about to fructify. This is in Rupa Goswami's teaching. Just about to fructify, but not mature yet. But wait a while, it'll mature. and then those things that are just sprouting, and things that are just dormant in the seed form. Gardening is interacting with the material nature is a good teacher. Material nature is a good teacher. So I've mentioned this a couple of times. My father was an outdoorsy type. He liked the outdoors. So because he liked, as his young son, I did, outdoorsy stuff with my father. So one of the things he liked was gardening. And one of the things I learned from gardening is it's not just a matter of clipping the weeds at the top. You can do that, but there's the other. There's the if the root is still there, wait a while. That very same weed is going to sprout because the root is still there. And then even if you pull the root, not just clip the top, there's other seeds that are not yet germinated in the soil. And so weeding is a regular, an important part of gardening, along with planting the stuff you want. And then you have to be able to distinguish what's the stuff you want and what's the weed. Anyway, material nature, good lesson giver on karma and many other things. Most things, most plants or trees or something that grows in the earth comes from seeds. So like the seed, bhakti lata bija, the seed of bhakti, or the seed of a tree. Starts with the seed. But there are, material nature is such that some plants and some trees don't grow from seeds. I learned this. I share this, just a little spinning out on nature. This past summer, I was visiting California, and one of the places I visited was, I'm not even sure what the name of the place was, Carmel Valley, maybe, and that's a place. But that's not that may not. I went there, but he's a California guy, and I know it's a place in California. My sister lives there, Carmel Valley. Were you saying yes? You know my sister? Huh? Huh? You heard it. Okay. You know Shamasundar? Where does he live? Say it slower. Okay. So I visited him in the place where he lives, near where Kanka lives. You know Kanka? Okay. He lives on her property. She's married and has a big property. Her husband has a big property, and she leased a little cabin to Shamasundar on that property. And their property is, they're these giant trees, sequoia trees, the ones that Prabhupada talked about, hundreds of years old, and they grow really big. So it's about nature and learning from nature. So Shamasundar knows a lot. He's like a botanist. And, he knows about a lot of things. So we went for a walk and a little trail through the woods. It was actually a path. And he walked over and tapped the side of a sequoia tree. He said, "How many years old do you think this tree is?" And, it's really big, and really tall. So he said, what do you think supports all this weight of this giant tree? It's the root structure. Then he pointed to the ground. He's giving me a botany lesson. The whole area at the base of the tree, there's nothing growing because it's the root structure of the tree everywhere. Then we walked a little further, and he stopped, and he pointed. You see that there? It looks like a weed, right? It's a little baby sequoia tree, and it's come from the root of another. See that sequoia tree over there? It's come from the root structure of that sequoia tree. They don't need seed. They don't grow from seed. There's other really big trees, fig trees, and without named the varieties of trees, they grow from seed. A banyan tree grows from a seed. In a banyan, anyway, without nature has its lesson. So, like it looked like a weed just growing out of the ground along the side of the trail. And then we walked some further distance, and some fellow came along, and I don't know who engaged him because it was just like a trail through the forest, but he had one of those weed whackers. He was knocking everything over. I guess to keep it so it doesn't become overgrown and people can walk without difficulty. And he whacked the banyan tree, the little one, baby. And Shamasundra said, these people, they don't know what they're doing. They said, but it'll grow back because the root structure is there. Because it's growing from the root structure of a big banyan tree. That's how mamas produce babies if you're a banyan tree. So the nature of this world is like that. It's tadasad yoni, janmasu. Our good fortune, ill fortune arise from our past deeds, good and bad. And as long as you're in the material atmosphere, as long as you're in material nature, it's going to be the duality thing. Doesn't matter. Be a good person, be a mixed person, be a bad person, be a whatever person, be not even a person, just be an animal or something or a something. And good fortune, ill fortune, or happiness and distress. It's just part of the duality of what the material nature is. It's not a new idea, but Prahlad is describing this to his friend. Now, Prabhupada is taking it into this level of economic development. At least that's how he's translated the verse. Endeavors merely for sense gratification or material happiness through economic development are not to be performed. At least these little boys. But it's good for little boys to get an education of when you grow up, you're not a little boy anymore. Should you pursue economic development? Is that a good idea or not? Endeavors merely for sense doesn't say don't have But you don't live here. You just know how the procedure works. You just told them to be quiet. Right? Good for you. Okay. It's a principle. It's not become destitute. It's not become destitute. It's not care less about economic development. That's not it. But economic development merely for sense gratification, that's the problem. So if you don't engage in economic development, not merely for sense gratification or material happiness through economic development, what do you do? Well, is it possible, the answer to this question is yes, is it possible to engage in maintaining the necessities of life in a reasonable way, yatarham upayunditaha, according to suitability? For different persons, different things are suitable. Other persons, other things are suitable. But for each of us, something that's suitable. And for a higher consciousness purpose, for the satisfying and using things in service to Krishna purpose. It's the slippery slope, meaning the phrase from Rupa Goswami is yukta vairagya. There's Palgu Vairagya, there's Yukta Vairagya. Palgu is false. Yukta is making the connection, using things. Yukta, detachment or Vairagya through using things in service to Krishna, where Krishna is to be pleased. A few months ago, it wasn't too long ago, there was a young college student, nice devotee, that decided during the winter break they weren't going to go traveling all the way back home and spend time with family. They decided they wanted to really focus on their sadhana, so they stayed in their living space at the university. And while doing that, they became, they noticed, became painfully aware of clutter, unnecessary stuff. And once they started going down the path of what do I need, what do I really need, they decided there's a lot of stuff in this place that I don't need. So they thought what to do with the stuff I don't need. And by charity and this and that and the other thing, they got rid of stuff they didn't need. And then this is a letter. And then they expressed that from now on, I'm going to be very careful what I bring home. Like, if something, if I don't need it, I'm not going to bring it home. There's a very nice section in Ramayana, in Ram's Leela, I like so much. It's this. The process of achieving perfection in the age of Lord Ramachandra was, which age and what's the process of perfection? Who raise your hand so we don't. No. Yes. Fire sacrifice. You get an A in your exam. So this is Canto 7, Chapter 10, verse. He was engaging brahmanas in the yajna. And traditional yajnas require 4 fires or 4 brahmanas in the 4 directions. And when the deity installation of Krishna Balaram was going on, there were 4 fires. There were 4 brahmanas chanting 4 different types of mantras from each of the 4 Vedas. So when the yajna was completed in Ayodhya, in the presence of Lord Ramachandra, he did what you do when you engage brahmanas. He gave charity. And what he gave in charity was his kingdom, in the 4 directions. This direction, that direction, 4 brahmanas. And then there was the Acharya, doesn't give the name, but Vishishta, and he gave his capital. And it says, the verse says, the only thing he kept was the clothes on his back. And the brahmanas were, what does the brahmana need with it? 1/4 of the universe, 1/4 of the earth planet. So they received it, they accepted it. They didn't say no. They accepted it because it's charity, but then they gave it back, saying, we don't, it already belongs to you, so you give it to us, and it's your right to do it because it belongs to you, but we want to give it back to you because we don't have need for these things, This is the topic of what you need. But for brahmanas, what's most important is knowledge, and knowledge and realization that you've imparted to us through your association and engaging us in service to you. That's our happiness. That's our greatest happiness. So thank you. We'll keep that, our realization. Nice exchange. You know, Tadati pratikrinati goyam akyati prishati is one of the important teachings. Verse number 4 of Nectar of Instruction, one of the nice teachings of the Goswami. So, to endeavor for economic development, dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So, not the performance of dharma for the sake of getting artha, or just skip the dharma part, just strive for artha. Neither of those are the platform of pure devotional service. The platform of pure devotional service is that which is required. She's got her friends back there. Okay. More than a friend. Okay. We live our life in the temporary world. We're eternal souls with the temporary bodies in a temporary place. So we take care of necessities, that which one needs to make, as Prabhupada says, maintain body and soul together in service to Krishna. And be careful to not, it's this, in Ishopanishad, be careful not to accept other things, knowing well to whom they belong. Isabashyam idam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagatena jaktena bunditaha magradaha kasya swidhanam. Knowing well to whom they belong. We don't accept more than what we require. And what do you do? So like this college girl, what do you do? Yes, if somebody wants you to give a gift, or you go into a store to buy stuff, don't buy stuff you don't need. The stuff that you need, you maintain it properly. Maintain it because it's Krishna's property. Krishna gave you the ability to have the funds to get the stuff. So it's Krishna's stuff. You maintain it properly. And what does that mean, properly mean? Well, things have utility, and you keep things very clean, etc., etc., etc. It's like Vedic culture has these guidelines to how to live one's life. But these are just little boys, but Prahlad is helping them understand. Not what do you do today will help determine what you do tomorrow. Why? For they result only in a loss of time and energy, with no actual profit. If one's endeavors are directed towards Krishna consciousness, it's an English translation of what they said, but anyway, there was no Krishna consciousness Hare Krishna movement at that time, but it's the principle for the satisfaction of Krishna. If one's endeavors are directed towards satisfying Krishna, one surely can attain the spiritual platform of self-realization. There's no such benefit from engaging oneself in economic development with material motivation or material purpose or material calculation. We've had several discussions so far on supposing you're not there yet. Like, I have needs, or at least I think I have needs. I have wants. I have desires. And there may not be what I need, but I have desires. And what happens if you pursue those desires? Well, you get entangled in the complexities of material life. And you prolong sojourn in material life. And a thoughtful person is careful to not prolong the sojourn in material life. And you can't just wind it down and make it zero. That's a mistake. That's the conception, but it's not a correct conception. There's the denial, vikalpa. There are these two, sankalpa, vikalpa. Accept and reject. So vikalpa, denial within the mind. Endeavors, mainly for sense gratification, are not to be performed because they lead to problem. Result in loss of time and energy. Ayur. Yeah. Without any actual profit. There's something that may come, and people they cut corners and cheat and lie and steal and do things because they look like there's some profit. But what's that profit that they gain? So-called benefits cannot solve the real problems of life. Is there something that can solve what are the real problems of life, and is there something that can solve them? The answer is yes. I'm just pausing for thoughtfulness. A nice teaching, one of many nice teaching, is Sanatana Goswami when he first met Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is found in the Sanatana Shiksha section, the Antya Lila section of Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's not chronological, but Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes the 2-month exchange that Sanatana Goswami had with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. 2 months. 2 months. I'd like to have that. 2 months of just sitting with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the personal Godhead, the most magnificent avatar of the Supreme Lord. And you're a Brahmana who from childhood you've been immersed in Srimad Bhagavatam. From childhood. Now you have that opportunity for 2 months to be with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. What's that going to be like? It's in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And the starting point, there's so many nice things in Chaitanya Charitamrita. The starting point, he most learned Brahmana, vast and learned Brahmana, and he said, many people with a straw in his teeth, indicating humility, prostrating himself before Lord Chaitanya, looking up, saying, people call me a learned person, a pandita, but I'm such a learned fellow, I don't even know who I am. What kind of pandita is that? So therefore, because you're being kind to me, let me ask these 2 questions. Who am I? And why am I forced to suffer the 3-fold miseries of material existence? That's the starting point of their discussion. A good place to start. Why am I forced to suffer? Because I don't want to suffer. But I'm forced to suffer. That's that previous verse. You can't, anyone, doesn't matter. There's happiness and distress. It's part of the program. Just have a material body, and there's distress. So persons commonly don't know what the real problems are, and they're looking for something outside to bring happiness or diminishing of distress through the fruits of their labor, meaning money, and the affluence and the benefits of one's piety, and now I can overcome my distresses. But it's not true. It's not true. By this distress being overcome, you create many other distresses. Having attained a human form, what should one not use it for? Because it's durlabha manusa janma, was the first verse. Happiness which comes from sense perception, which is available for all species on its own accord, One should not endeavor for such material happiness. Such endeavor drains one's vital force, energy, and lifespan. Now, this statement, this is a different yuga, but it's specifically a statement for Kali Yuga. The duration of life, vitality, memory, compassion, and many other things in this age of Kali, they're reduced. For what? Some temporary happiness. The body itself, we heard, is temporary. The situation of having a human body is temporary. We don't know what's next. We don't know. So if those who are dharmic, they have some faith that I do good karma and I'll get a good birth after this one. Good fruits during this life and good fruits after this life. So do good work. That's at least those that have the sense of karma and reincarnation. And then there are people that don't have that sense. They're more on the animal category. Dvipada Pashu, two-legged animal. But endeavor for sense gratification, happiness from sense gratification, or perceiving that happiness when it isn't really there, drains one's energy and lifespan. So that's what not to do. Vikalpa, here's the text 5 out of the first 5 verses. This is the injunction, what to do. Achieve the highest goal of life. Here's the translation. Therefore, tataha, while in material existence, bhavam ashrita, Shemaya bhavam ashrita, while in material existence, a person fully competent to distinguish wrong from right, must endeavor to achieve the highest goal of life, as long as the body is stout and strong and is not embarrassed by dwindling. Now, he's speaking to young boys, and they're not thinking, what that day is going to come when I'm dwindling. They're thinking, I'm going to be young forever. Rah, rah, rah. But it's not true. And those that are a little older, we know it's not true. So I wanted to read this, achieve the highest goal. It's, standing on the as stated by Prahlada Maharaja in the beginning of this chapter, Kumara Atrat Pragya. The word Pragya refers to one who is experienced and who can distinguish right from wrong. Such a person should not waste his energy and valuable human lifetime simply working like a cat or dog to develop his economic condition. For one word in this verse, there are 2 meanings. Bhavam ashrita and Payam ashrita. By accepting the meaning of either of them, will bring one to the same conclusion. Payam ashrita indicates that the materialistic way of life is always fearful. Payam. Because at every step there is danger. Materialistic life is full of anxieties and fear. Payam. Similarly, accepting the reading bhavam ashrita, the word bhavam refers to unnecessary trouble and problems. The want of Krishna consciousness, one is put into bhavam, being perpetually embarrassed by birth, death, old age, and disease. Thus, one is surely full of anxiety. And it goes on. So apparently, the bhavam and bhayam are two different versions of the Sanskrit of the Srimad Bhagavatam in this verse. That happens sometimes, not too often, but sometimes. So when situated in material existence, that's bhavam ashritam. There's bhava and there's bhava. Bhava is, the misery, taking shelter of misery. And those who are experienced and can distinguish right from wrong, that's the pragya, or pragya patishta person. There's a nice reference to this. I'm going to read from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 4, just to read the verses. O Krishna, Arjuna said, what are the symptoms of one whose consciousness is thus merged in transcendence, such a pragyatya? How does he speak? What is his language? How does he sit? And how does he walk? Personality Godhead says, O Partha, when a man gives up all varieties of desire for sense gratification, which arise from material concoction, mental concoction, and when the mind, thus purified, finds satisfaction in the self alone, then he is said to be in pure transcendental consciousness. It's a pragya. Pure transcendental consciousness. It's a pragya. One who is not disturbed in mind, even amidst the threefold miseries, or elated when there is happiness, who is free from attachment, fear, and anger, called sage of steady mind. One who is able to withdraw his senses from sense objects, as the tortoise draws its limbs within the shell, is firmly fixed in perfect consciousness. Again, it's pragya. So, intelligent from experience, it is transcendental consciousness. Now, we all have experience of being in this world, but our experience of being in this world doesn't fix our intelligence. That's the pragya. And we're bewildered. We're often bewildered by circumstance. And, of course, Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam are companion literature. Krishna is the speaker of one, Krishna in the other. So it's the same message, just expressed in different language from a different perspective. But here's Prahlad's teaching. And this teaching is similar to the teaching that we find in Rishabhadev's teaching. It's a nice painting. This is his 100 sons, and it's his parting, instructions to his 100 sons before leaving this world, or before leaving to go into retired stage, which was a recluse. So here he is, as a statesman, a very celebrated. Look upstairs, up on the balcony up there. There's people listening to him speaking. And the verse that is often quoted, we can say it together. Nayam deho dehapajam nirloke kastan kaman arhate vid bhujam ye tapo divyam putrakayena sattvam judyed yasmad brahma saukyam tvanantam. So brahma saukyam, this happiness of Brahman, that's what's wanted, my dear boys. Rishabhadev teaching his sons, which is very similar to Prahlad teaching his classmates. Of all the living entities who have accepted material bodies in this world, one who has been awarded this human form should not work hard day and night simply for sense gratification. Sounds familiar, right? Which is available even for dogs and for hogs that eat stool. one should engage in penance, tapodivyam, and austerity to attain the divine position of devotional service. By such activity, one's heart is purified, and when one attains this position, he attains eternal blissful life, which is transcendental material happiness and which continues forever. So it's not a difficult choice. The outcome is not difficult. And then the procedure is also struggle or struggle. Which do you want? And, the struggle, tapo divyam, is better. The divine struggle of tapa, or difficulty, or austerity, is by far better. I'll leave it to your imagination. The younger generation students that are completing their studies are not sure if they're going to get employment. And if they get employment, if they'll be able to maintain it. Because they may be replaced by a computer or by a robot or AI or something. And they're the people that are the pullers of the strings of the puppets of the economy. They're saying, you're all going to be replaced by robots. That's not encouraging. I could easily launch into a whole thing about what's stable. There's one thing that's stable, and that's Krishna consciousness. But the platform of stability in Krishna consciousness, when you have your foot in the material boat, it's unstable. It keeps wobbling. It's not stable. There is a place of shelter that has and is stable. But it's not this place. So we're in this place. What are you going to do? Shrug your shoulders, or cry, or be distressed, or live in fear, or those are not nice. None of those are nice options. So this is way back when the same message is being. So what it wasn't you should pursue. There's the sankalpa vikalpa. There's the do not accept, and then there's the accept. Accept that place of shelter. One should engage in penance and austerity to attain the divine position of devotional service. By such activity, one's heart is purified, and when one attains this position, he attains eternal blissful life, which is transcendental material happiness. It sounds too high, doesn't it? It sounds too high, like reaching for the moon. And I'm this short fellow. I can't touch the moon. Technology can send some rocket ship to the moon, but he can't stay there. It's high. The platform of pure devotional service is high. It's rarely achieved. Sudurlabham. Very rare to achieve it. But it's certainly, by measurements of going in that direction, it's a permanent asset, which you cannot say about anything material. I mean, in speaking about business, or you have some accumulation of funds, and how you're going to save those funds, this way, that way, the other way. They have so many schemes of how to do it, and it's all going to be taken from you, and you can pass it on to your dependents, and then how are they going to deal with it? They're going to make choices with. So it's all temporary. It's just like that, and then it's accumulate temporary for what? insubstantial. It's not a good program. Can you just like hit the delete button and pick another program? What's the other program? Is there another program? This is the other program. So now I'm going to read 2 more verses, 3 more verses. 7, 6. Every human being has the maximum duration of life, 100 years. But the one who cannot control his senses, half of those years are completely lost at night because he sleeps 12 hours, being covered by ignorance. That's life. Therefore, this person has a lifetime of only 50 years. In the tender age of childhood, first person, when everyone is bewildered, one passes 10 years simply in boyhood, engaging in sporting and playing, and passes another 10 years. In this way, 20 years. Similarly, in old age, and one is invalid, unable to perform even material activities. One passes another 20 years, wastefully. This is Prahlad speaking to his classmate. And boy, one whose mind and senses are uncontrolled becomes increasingly attached to family life because of insatiable lustful desires and very strong illusions. In such a madman's life, the remaining years are also wasted because even during those years, we cannot engage in self. But this is a pretty picture. That's if we neglect the prohibition part. Don't know what to do. Here's a nice chart. This is just showing in a chart form what he described in those 3 verses. Only 30 years remain, and those 30 years are often wasted in detachment to the temporary activities of household life. And no, next slide. That's the end. So this is Rishabh Dev's teaching. There's symmetry in the Bhagavatam. There's this message here, message there. Same aligns with the message of Bhagavad Gita. So these devotional texts are to help those who wish to make a permanent solution to the problems of life. And one more time, the advice of Prahlad is start at an early age, tender age of childhood. This Kumara begins, it's like when kids go to school. In America, when a child, what's the age that you begin school? Kindergarten or whatever, the compulsory education? 5. No, same Kumara means 5. So from 5 to 10. That's 6 years of education, standard in the world. Still playing for 4 years. And then school. And education for what? Anyway, we don't have to repeat it, but he's advising, it's not don't go to school, but what's the purpose of school? What's the purpose of anything? What's the purpose of life? And it's good for anyone at any stage of life to have a proper alignment with what's the purpose. Society, let's end with this. Society doesn't encourage, generally speaking, society doesn't encourage people to ask those questions and find answers to those questions. What's the purpose? Be successful. That's the purpose. And how do you be successful? Check this box, that box, that box. Successful. So do it. And is that really what successful is? I'm going to do a little sharing and I'm going to end. One of the impetuses to help me once again, as I did when I was a child, young boy growing up in America, ask, essential questions because I was an inquisitive little boy, but I didn't find answers. Like, pretty basic one. So I stopped asking those questions and started doing what you're supposed to do, be successful. Academics for a young boy in America. Academics, sports, and social. Check the box. You're successful. 20 years later, I had a conscientious objector form in front of me because my parents were informing me that the United States Army had assigned me a classification of 1A, the draft notice. So I was supposed to show up in the U.S. Army recruiting station, get a uniform, get on an airplane, go off to Vietnam. So I thought it was dumb. But they convinced me, you better do something. Because you're in jail if you just say it's dumb. You got to do something. They didn't say what to do. They were trusting my intelligence to do the right thing. So I found from the Quakers, a Christian group, that they were helping young people like me get free from their 1A classification, the draft. And so I got a form. And the form, first question in the form, state the nature of your conviction such that you cannot take part in the armed forces of the United States of America. The conscientious objector, first question. And being trained how to get A's in exams, I knew how to get an A in that exam. You know what the examiner wants, you put that on the paper, and that's what you get an A for giving that answer. But I didn't have an answer besides the, cosmetic one. I didn't know what my convictions were. Unfortunately, I took the question seriously, and the fact that I didn't have the answer seriously, because it started me on the quest of asking those questions again. That whatever the impetus, at whatever stage of life, who knows, some critical situation in your health or your life or family or something somewhere, or a friend or something, at whatever stage of life that happens. And then at least it's an opportunity for asking those very profound questions. And you'll find, I found, from that one question came another 100 questions. You open that door, there's lots of questions that don't have an answer. We're just busy being successful. There's no answers to really meaningful questions. That's sad. And that's life. It's largely life with people that are trained up in ignorance, have a PhD in ignorance, or MD, MA, or something. So it's not. There's nothing wrong with becoming a PhD, or nothing wrong with becoming an MD. But what's the purpose? What's really meaningful? What's not in this category of the temporary? Like Sanatana Goswami. Who am I? K-Ami. Not even who. What am I? K-Ami. And why am I forced to be subjected to these threefold miseries? Why do I have to suffer? Why? There's an Upanishad called Kena Upanishad, and that's what it means. That particular Upanishad is asking the why question for so many things. Of course, it gives answers, but the answer goes to transcendence. It's very similar. The language is different, the approach is different, but very similar conclusion. What is transcendent? Transcendental to material happiness, and which continues forever. And that's something I can say yes to. So why don't we do what we say yes to? Why do we continue? Because we're conditioned. That the force of Maya is very strong. And we're conditioned by Maya. It's hard to get free from Maya. Is there a method? It's a rhetorical question. Is there a method? Yes. And the method is Prahlad teaching, and he received from Narada, and Narada received from Lord Brahma, and so forth. Krishna is the original teacher. There's the teaching of transcendence from the transcending. The rest of Prahlad, we'll see how far we get with the prayers, or not prayers, the teachings of Prahlad to his classmates. He doesn't stay. The first 5 verses are dwelling on the same territory, but he's going to next class tomorrow. We'll move on. Tomorrow evening, we'll move on. Let's see if there's some discussion. So far, we've had some really nice discussion. So I'm looking forward to nice discussion.
Thank you for lighting the path or what we should be choosing. So we were reading and discussing about the pursuit of material happiness and material benefits, and the flip side of that coin is the sufferings or problems that happen in life. So in the course of sharing Krishna consciousness with others, one of the questions that keeps repeatedly coming is, I'm trying to show interest in bhakti or Krishna consciousness, but there are so many challenges or obstacles with family situations or something like that. But still, I sense the focus is only on getting rid of the problems, and the focus is not that much on the transcendence or Krishna as the goal. So I would like you to shed some more light on that issue.
I'm a fan of Jiva Goswami. No secret. And one of the sections in his Sandarbha commentary of Srimad Bhagavatam is there's 6 of the Sandarbhas, and the number 6 is Priti Sandarbha, which is the same as prema, or the stages of bhakti up to the stage of prema or priti. And the very first verse of Priti Sandarbha says essentially, without exception, everyone wants 2 things: increase of happiness and decreasing the influence of misery. And then he did make the bold statement. It says that the perfection of happiness and diminishing of distress comes only when there's absorption in the topics of the personality of Godhead Vishnu. And then that's the rest of that Sandarbha is just expanding on that concept. So it's not a secret that it's something we all want. And there's nothing wrong with wanting. But, there are different ways that people have at their disposal or by conditioning have learned or something to accomplish those two things, increasing and decreasing, more light and less darkness. So with there's a statement of faith, but then there's support for that statement of faith. Now, when you're speaking to a new person, they don't have faith. But to some degree, unless they just walk away and say, get out of here or something, that there's some faith, but then as the speaker to that person has only little, Prabhupada calls this fan the spark. So those things that they're standard things, standard messages that nourish faith, but be careful in giving those messages, particularly for most of us. Prabhupada was, able to estimate the capacity of others and just let them have it, the full dose. But for most of us, it's little steps in the direction of transcendence. So, with faith that I'm here having this conversation with you because you're a representative of Krishna Bhakti, and I don't have that Krishna Bhakti faith. Recognizing that dynamic that's going on within them, some things that from knowing them or knowing that they're spirit soul, with respect for their existence as a spirit soul, honor them in some ways or another way, and then find a little place where there's some attraction, some affinity, and you encourage that. In many cases, when speaking to new audiences, Prabhupada would say, try it. What have you to lose? There's no cost. It can be done anywhere. The other processes of higher elevation or higher consciousness, there's all kinds of rules, and it's very difficult to actually be successful in those other processes. Very difficult. This is simple. So, depends on the person. Best is to model that which tells them the process works. It's like our discussion about being gentle. And when one carries the quality of that one expects to see in one who's been involved in the bhakti process for some time, it's compelling. Or the opposite is also discouraging. I don't know if I want to be part of this process with this fellow or that lady or something. So having quality and character and all compassion and acceptance and gently helping the other person move another step, whatever that other step is. But it depends on their position. Yeah.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Please accept my humble obeisance with glories to Srila Prabhupada. Guru Maharaj, we know that Srila Prabhupada greatly emphasized on establishment of Varnashram Dharma within ISKCON. And the reason for that was because in Varnashram, Krishna consciousness is the center, and we strive to make our life centered around Krishna. And he also encouraged simple living and high thinking, simplifying our life. And lately I've been thinking about these things because of what is going on in the world, war, and there are fears that the supply chain might be disrupted. And Srila Prabhupada emphasized these farming communities where we can grow our own things and we can be self-sufficient. And yesterday you also were speaking about Vanaprastha, and most of us are heading in that direction. Guru Maharaj, above the age of 50 soon.
Well, I didn't say most. I said there are some persons.
Yeah, like that. So, Guru Maharaj, I wanted to learn about what is the role of
What is what?
what is a role of a devotee, female devotee in Vanaprastha stage of life.
Well, I did that, but I don't want to do it again. Didn't I cover that? Did I not cover that? Yes or no? No. Okay. Okay. I've had 3 discussions on this topic with persons that are in that cusp. Their children are grown. You know, they did the grahastha thing, and now their children are grown and married, and what's next? So a long discussion made very simple. Basically 3 things. 1, now that I'm in this Vanaprastha stage, I have more time than I did in my grahastha stage, in my student life stage. So that time should be utilized to nourish by hearing and chanting and studying and, you know, assimilating the message of Shastra according to what I've already learned, the next. So as a one of 3 things. So increase the hearing and chanting and the application of that hearing and chanting in my life. Second thing is share it with others, because the Vanaprastha stage person is a great asset to the people, to the world. And so you've received, so now give what you've received. And by one means or another, you could make a list of what are some of those means or another, but one means or another, find some way that you can give to others what you've received. And it nourishes the society. It makes the gift of the gratitude expression more complete. I receive, let me give. And, you know, aligned with the mood and the mission of those who are the givers, that from whom I receive. What are you going to do? Huh? A third thing is commonly, it's not mandatory, but visiting holy places or other means of purification, in addition to study and assimilation and teaching. So training and education, assimilation, and further purification. So some part of one's time, you know, the Vanaprastha stage, go to holy places and When you go to whole places, don't go as a tourist, but go as a one who wants to receive the purification that comes from that holy place. That means hearing from the qualified persons in those places, or go with those that are qualified and hear about those places, so that you get the most of that visit. Besides, that take pictures and send them back to your friends and family. Purification. Those two. Okay. We're waiting.
Yeah.
It's on.
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
It's going to be good, right? Because you had us all sitting at the edge of our straw mat over here. Go ahead.
Yeah. So, you do so much of service, traveling across the world to inspire people like us with bhakti.
I couldn't hear. Try it again. No, you don't have to tap the microphone. Just hold the microphone closer to that speaking part of your face.
Okay. So, can you hear me now?
Better?
Yeah. Hare Krishna Maharaj. So, you do so much of service, traveling across
There's
the world.
noise in the back, and it's competing with your speaking. Whoever's making noise, little boy, try again, third time. Okay. What's going on? What's going on?
Hare Krishna Maharaj. Can you hear me
Yeah,
now?
keep going. Keep going.
Yeah. So, you do so much of service, traveling across the world to inspire people like us in bhakti. So, could you please share something about the relationship you have developed with Krishna? Like, how do you relate to
This
him?
is off topic. It's off topic. It's a nice question, but I'm not going to answer it.
Oh, okay.
It's off topic.
Sorry. Okay. Thank you.
Because I know where these off topic questions go. Let me answer by giving the following. Some years ago, going back to the year 2010, I started visiting China. And I started visiting China because in that year 2010, I was the chairman of the GBC. And there's no job description for the chairman. So I went to one devotee that I knew previously was chairman, and I had a lot of regard for him. So I asked him, Rabindra Swarup Prabhu, a very intelligent, intellectual, PhD kind of person. So what should I do? And he said, get a globe, spin the globe, and when looking at the globe, think of what's really important, and do that. That was the answer. So I did it. And China, because at that particular time, there was Giridhari Swami, there were co-GBCs. One was incapable because of his health of continuing, so he was in a leave of absence GBC. And then the other was blacklisted. He couldn't enter China. And China's a big country with a lot of people. So I went to China. And from going to China since that time, 2010, I've been engaging with the Chinese devotees. Like, and without all the detail. And something I've found from the Chinese devotees is they ask lots of questions and some portion of them are off-topic questions. So I have a little flashcard when they ask off-topic questions. And the flashcard says, is this on topic? And they'll say no. I mean, not so directly, but if the answer is no, then my explanation to them and to you is Prabhupada said on a few occasions when people would ask off-topic questions, Prabhupada said, if I go there, if we be responsive to your off-topic question, that last half hour, 40 minutes will be forgotten. It will go in a different direction instead of investing in the topic that we've been speaking for half hour, 20 minutes. So, because I've said it to them enough times, and they don't ask those off-topic questions anymore, because they get the flashcard, and then the answer is polite no. That's a long answer to your question. When in the future, inquisitiveness is fantastic. Let the inquisitiveness go in the flow of the topic. It shows that you've been hearing and you keep the topic moving by your question.
I understand. Thank
Okay, I knew you would. But I'm saying it not just for you, but for the rest of the audience, as you understand I'm doing. Not to scold you or something. It's to keep direction moving. Here we go, over here. You going to answer her question? Going to be a comical question, I can tell.
Hare Krishna, Guru
Hare
Maharaj.
Krishna.
Yeah, this is the second question which I had in continuation with yesterday. What I asked. So I was discussing the same topic with one of my friend. I think 6 months ago, like doing
6 months ago. Okay.
Yeah, like doing a devotional service, going back to Godhead. Then he was not convinced. He said, "Okay, we come here, we do devotional service, and go back to Godhead. That's it." He was just saying, "Is that it? Is there nothing much like?" And he was saying, he's so passionate about being the best engineer. He want to prove
being the best
engineer. He was a software engineer, like what I do, software engineer.
Okay.
He want to be the best engineer in his company or some other company.
Okay.
So he was saying, I am more passionate about that compared to doing devotional service.
Okay. So good luck.
Yeah.
What is, there's no cheese down that hole. Supposing he becomes, supposing he doesn't, frustration. Supposing he does. Then, is that happiness? That's, you used, probably he used passion. That passion isn't happiness. You get or don't get. The endeavor to get is suffering. And then you get, and there's suffering. What's that realm like where people are the best? Without Dharma, it's nasty. Isn't it? Academic, corporate, politics, you name it. It's nasty. People are nasty. They're very competitive. And, they got to be numero uno. And somebody comes along, and then they're envious and competitive with that numero uno person that's trying to take my position. It's like Indra. He's got the heebie-jeebies all the time. People want to take my position. And he does all these bad things. He's powerful. But he's not. So, in this earthly realm, and then, that's for a dharmic person, they may attain a position in heaven, not a resident in heaven or a position in heaven. So keep going. What's it like? Is it what happiness really is? Is passion of any type? raw passion, that's happiness. So, no, I'm having this conversation with you. Your friend is not here to say, yeah, but it's okay. He's not here. And, we're speaking to him, but I'm speaking to you about speaking to him. So you're not necessarily going to have to say these same things to him, but you process it in such a way. You've got whatever his name is, Musk, and he's like a super wealthy guy. Okay, so I want to be a super wealthy guy. I want to get artificial intelligence to die, and knock people out of the way because I want to get wealthy. I want to be the best. Is he happy? No. He says. I mean, it's like he doesn't elaborate, but it's not happiness. Having this money isn't happiness. But he's way up on the totem pole, and he keeps performing because he's got a gift given to him by God. He's using it to replace people's livelihood. And that's happiness. And so it's not happiness. Passion isn't happiness. It doesn't equal happiness. And being successful, then it has to be more, and then competition, and rivalry, and all of the envy, and all the nasty stuff. It's there. That's that realm. Then that's just then the demons, the asuras, and the suras. Yes, Parameshwari. Okay, but do we have to do it right now? Okay, you're reminding me. Are the children ready to stand up and do their thing? Okay, we'll take another question or two, and then we'll come back. Over here.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj says that the human birth is really rare and very special.
Yeah.
How do I feel grateful for something that I don't remember earning, and how do I feel grateful for this birth?
Well, suppose I mentioned this. Supposing somebody gives you a gift of $1 million, or you because you're born in a family and you inherit $1 million. Either way, it's the result of some past fight. Just like Ambarish. You know who he is? Albert Ford, the son of Henry Ford, grandson of Henry Ford. He inherited a bunch of money. And he was a devotee. And he's using it to build the Temple of Vedic Planetarium for a couple of decades now. And the good news is that it's actually going to open. Would you like to know when it's actually going to open? I'll get back to your question, but the disappearance day of Srila Prabhupada, 2027. So November 1, 2027. November 1, 2027. They fixed the date and ready or not, it's going to open. And there's stuff before and there's stuff after, and then there's the moving the deities and there's everything. So he just inherited. But, he knew where it came from. But the gift came from. So by what entitled him to take birth in the Ford family? Some past good deeds. Suchinam Srimatam Gehe Yoga Brahta Sanjayati. The verse from Bhagavad Gita. One takes birth in a family like that due to past pious activity. So I don't remember the past pious activity, but here I am, born in a wealthy family. And here's, several multi-millions of dollars that I don't know what I did to earn it, but here it is. So to know what the source is, at least in principle, you can know achieving the human form of life is very special. And if the ordinary way, there's three ways. One of the ordinary way is by evolutionary process. The soul moves through different species of life by the evolutionary process. They're not accumulating new karma because there's no karma for lower species. They're just burning off the prior karma that come to the fortunate position of a human form. Millions of births. So I don't remember those, but here I am in the human form. So I may not remember, but so one can achieve the human form of life by unknowingly being engaged in devotional service. Something back there, I didn't even know it, and somebody engaged me in some devotional service. And so now I get a human form of life. I skipped that evolutionary stage to come very, very rapidly to the human form. So that's the unknowingly. And then maybe knowingly, and I don't remember my knowingly past, but here I am in the human form of life. So those the three avenues or channels, and there's subdivision. So here you are. Now what are you going to do with it? That's the important thing. And then there's instructions. Now that you have it, here's what you do with it. Here's the what to do not, and here's the do. But recognize that it's rare. The rarity part is if you don't use it properly, if you don't use it, you'll lose it. Chances are. So use it wisely. And what does use it wisely mean? What does it look like? So then these teachings, Rishabdev's teachings to his sons and Prahlad's teaching to his classmates, etc., it gives us how to use it. And once you use it properly, then you may or may not have an understanding of how I'm not deserving of this good fortune, but here it is. Let me use it wisely. But there is some purpose, some cause back there. I may not remember it. But now I know what to do when here's the $1 million. What to do with it. And what use it wisely means. Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam are teachings of how to take that asset and use it properly. And then you'll get further intelligence, what it means and the benefits and the detriments, etc. He's going to get the last question.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. So, Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, when he interacted with his father, and after that, when Lord appeared, he asked the benediction for his father as well, and
Yes.
Father and Hiranyakashipu, and the Lord blessed him. So, along with these, when he is teaching his friends, what happened to those friends? Anything written for them?
I don't know. Maybe there is something written. I don't know what that something is. If there is something written, what happened later? At least this much we know. Their bhakti life has begun because they've had association with one who's carrying bhakti, and he's sharing bhakti with them. So at least the seed is there. But what happens? How much the cultivation of that seed? I'm unaware of any text that says. And now we're ready. Are we ready? So, where are the performers? Okay. Wow.